Too many people condemn Demona and Gargoyles as a villainous character, but I'm here to change your perception today. Stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm McGann, and welcome to the Fangirl, where some weeks it's like a non-stop Disney party in my house. And today, I want to talk to you about the best written female character of the 1990s, Demona from Gargoyles. Seriously, she is a villain technically, but she's also very complex and deep. You can understand her motives. You can sympathize with her. So you know exactly how she got to the point where she's at. You can also really empathize with her and root for her to have some kind of happy ending. Even though she never really gets it, does she? But let's take a look at Demona's life and break down some of her defining moments. As a young gargoyle, Demona was taken in as basically a magician's apprentice. So here we have this good-hearted, loving, wide-eyed gal who had all of this drive and ambition to be better, to be more. But her teacher ended up being not such a good guy who made her more sinister and protective of her own people. And her people, the gargoyles, were pretty much designed to protect others, so it made a very weird conflict of interest. Demona's trust was turned to anxiety, and that anxiety was turned into fear, and that fear led Demona to try and liberate the gargoyles from human rule, but instead got them all killed. Well, most of them killed anyways. Still, that is a lot of heavy guilt to have to carry around for a mistake that had good intentions. Well, okay, not really good intentions for the humans involved, but she was really pro-gargoyle. Essentially, Demona was just Magneto with his us-first ideology. So most of her clan gets destroyed, and the love of her life, the person she is bonded to most of all, is lost to her forever. All because she trusted humans. Think about that. Really, think about that. How would those events lead you to trust more humans? It wouldn't. So Demona wanders off to a clan cave, which was apparently comprised of other gargoyles from Castle Wyvern. As I've heard it, they just send some of their population away so that they don't outgrow their castle. So some of them lived at the castle, some of them lived in a cave, but they were all the same clan. And Demona spends decades of her life just leading and caring for other gargoyles. Also take note that at this stage, Demona is surrounded by her kind, but she never once tries to replace Goliath with anybody else. Gargoyles mate for life. That is a canonical fact from the comics. So there is nothing in the universe that can fill the void that Goliath has left in Demona. Then, that stupid ambitious boy Macbeth shows up. He makes a magical deal with Demona, and the two of them end up bound together, which makes them both immortal. Now, maybe that sounds cool to you, but take a step back and think about how much suffering and bitterness is already inside of Demona all the time at this point. And there was no way to process or have any kind of therapy to feel better about the situation she had lived through. The only way that Demona was able to survive with herself and live day to day to day to day for 1,000 years was to deflect all of the blame for what happened to her onto humans. The military man she had trusted betrayed her and killed her kind. The Magus turned her lover to stone forever. And Macbeth was using Demona for his own gains and ended up gluing the two together for all of eternity. So we skip ahead to the 90s, where Goliath and the others are woken up through Xanatos fulfilling the Magus's prophecy spell thingy. And so now we have Demona, who has lived for 1,000 years alone and in pain. And she finally has what she's always wanted all this time. Goliath's unconditional love right there in front of her again. Except that's not what she gets. Goliath doesn't feel betrayed by mankind. He hasn't spent the last millennium being treated like garbage that has to hide from their sight. He has not had every good intention thing that he's tried to do blow up in his face with no soft place to fall. Goliath has just been out cold for all of this time. Yet, it took very little interaction before Goliath found himself a new little human honey, and all of a sudden, nothing Demona could do seemed to be right. Goliath was very cold and dissatisfied with how Demona had evolved over the centuries. And granted, she was not full and open and honest about her experiences, but Goliath has such a lawful good alignment that he only sees the world in black and white terms. So even if Demona had said, "Hey honey, let's sit down and have a long talk about everything I've been through, I don't think that would have really made a difference once Goliath saw how Demona was acting. Now, was it Elisa Maza that caused Goliath to turn his back on Demona? No, not really at first, but Elisa's gigantic moral compass certainly didn't help to bring Goliath and Demona closer together. And they actually have such a tragic love story because we see over and over again that Goliath really does want Demona, and Demona really does want Goliath, but they just will not compromise at all. I mean, you can tell your ex isn't over you if she's making a clone of you. But ultimately, the relationship was toxic on both sides. And before you keyboard warriors start screaming that Goliath did nothing wrong, yes, he did. Goliath tends to use the feelings that he has growing for Elisa to keep himself from really investing back into Demona. Like, Goliath wants to have Demona back, but he's also able to withdraw from her and put that emotional energy into Elisa. So he gets to play both of the women, essentially. And that is really clear in the episode Vows, where we see Goliath standing over Demona after giving her past self a don't turn evil pep talk, and he's just looking at her like he expects Demona to be fixed and all better and they can be in love again. The problem was, Demona did remember her vows, but she still went through a ton of unresolved trauma that led her to become the exact same person. So instead of being open and empathetic and meeting Demona where she is at emotionally and trying to win her over with kindness, Goliath cuts Demona out of his life unless he thinks he can control how she thinks and feels. Which again, that is not only super manipulative, but super easy to do when you have somebody else you can romantically attach and unattach to. But you don't get to play both sides like that. You either love somebody and you're willing to hear them out and work with them and try to reach a compromise, or you're just over them and you're dusting your hands and walking away. Playing in the middle like that just messes up everybody's feelings, and it gives Demona an impossible standard that she can never live up to. So how is she not the victim? She trusted somebody to teach her magic, and she did as her master commanded. She had good intentions for the soldier that she trusted, and was instead betrayed, had her people obliterated, and lost the love of her life. Demona then went on to become the leader of the other sector of her clan, where she did everything she could to protect them, even essentially selling her soul to become bound to Macbeth. At every turn, humans hurt Demona, so of course she had negative feelings about them. Then, after 1,000 years of changing and evolving as a person, Goliath is brought back to life. But he hasn't been through that 1,000 years of pain and suffering. So now he is looking down on Demona for being shaped by her life experiences instead of taking any effort to understand them. Homegirl is just a gentle conversation away from being converted to the good side. She just doesn't want to be hurt and discarded anymore. Demona has been in fight mode for so long and nobody cares to help her, so she just keeps amping up the evilness level because the love of her life is now rejecting her and leaning into somebody else. It's enough to make anybody go insane. And if you don't think that it's Goliath that is fueling Demona's negative activity, just step back for a minute and ask yourself, how much damage did she really do for that 1,000 years that Goliath was out of the picture? For all of those years, the same mystical, magical things still existed, and Demona never once really tried to wipe out the whole human race. She only started on that plan of action after her man, who was supposed to be bonded to her for life, up and left her for a human. That was the final straw. Exterminate, exterminate, exterminate. Try and tell me I'm wrong. You can't, because I'm not. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. Essentially, it would not. So now we skip ahead to the 90s, where Goliath is suddenly reawakened after Xanatos moves Castle Wither. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos, like you, helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.